Hi everyone, my name is Shintaviela and we are Eternal Productions. Welcome to our 5th episode of Empowering Africa. This week we dive into how can education transform Africa with 3 amazing guests. If you are returning, thank you so much for the support. We see it and we appreciate it. If it's your first time here, don't worry. We tend to speak about very important topics here in Africa that will hopefully not only empower but transform Africa. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned as I introduce our guests. Our first guest is Mr. Sepuhla Sebukhodi, who is an actor and musician and well known for his role in Generations as Kenneth Mashaba. He is also the recipient of 2 SAFTA awards. Mr. Sebukhodi is a recording gospel artist and released 2 albums, where the second one was released in 2010. Our second guest is Shirley Ann Downey, who studied marketing and public relations in South Africa and with further studies is now a qualified accredited South African quality assurance trainer. Shirley has been undertaking company strategies, marketing, public relations and communications business related projects for a few decades and has been training and in business for over 35 years with excellent results. Our third and final guest is Mr. Mahlorin Ngobeni, who is the founder of his company THN Debt Counselors. He is a qualified, experienced and registered debt counselor. The company's main focus is to assist and aid all consumers who cannot afford to meet their monthly financial obligations. Hi Shirley, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks, Chantal, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you for asking.
Good.
So please give us a brief introduction as to who you are and what it is you do.
Certainly. I was born in Pretoria in South Africa a few decades ago, and I have studied marketing, public relations. I have an MBA, and I also studied the teaching of foreign language in Thailand. So I have been involved in education for quite some time. And at the moment, I am semi-retired, but I do look after my son's business in South Africa, and he lives in the UK. So it's been fun, it's been good, and I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think then this topic today is perfect for you.
It is indeed. It is indeed, yeah.
So how are you today?
Fine, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
And thank you for inviting me to this platform to share with the others. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. You can introduce yourself and tell us what it is you do.
Hi, my name is Mahlorin Ngobeni. I am a debt counselor. I specialize in consumer awareness, where we educate people about finances, how they can stay out of being over-committed or over-indebted.
That's great. Thank you so much. And hi, Mr. Sebukhodi.
Hi.
How are you today?
And God is good.
That's good.
All the time.
Amen. Please introduce yourself and tell us what it is you do.
My name is Sepuhla Sebukhodi. I'm an actor, writer, director. Currently, I'm working as an artistic director for Mahuma Group.
Thank you so much. Okay, so education is something that we experience from early childhood and throughout our youth, and some people even take it further like yourself. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of education and how things like the environment in which we learn or the theory itself can shape and change our lives. So before I get into the more personal questions, please answer, what role do you think education played in your life?
I was very fortunate in that my parents were able to send me to a convent. And from there, I then went to a government school. I then went overseas and studied there as a student at the teenage of 13, 14 for 18 months. And there was a huge change in terms of their school education, where there were no uniforms worn compared to what we do in other parts of the world. It was extremely educational for me, and I realized then the importance of amazing teachers. You can make or break your subject by having teachers that are very good at what they do and know what they're doing. But even more important is how they actually transcribe what they want to teach across to you. From there, I decided that I wanted to extend my knowledge with regard to the financial industry. So I entered into the game of short-term insurance. I spent 29 years there. And it was during that period of time that I realized the shortcomings of people that enter a career, any career for that matter. And as a result of that, I was also training quite extensively in that career path. After 29 years in that industry and having attained a number of degrees, I then decided to open up my own business, which I did do. And it wasn't insurance, strangely enough. It was all to do with event management, public relations, putting marketing strategies together for people. But I would say at least 60% was training. And I entered into the corporate world and government arenas for training, and I found that fascinating.
Yes, that's definitely a long line of education in your life. Okay.
Indeed it is.
Yeah. Thank you, Shirley.
I would say education is a very powerful tool. I'll give an example with what I'm doing. I had to go through training in order to start my own practice. And after that, endless possibilities were opening up for me. So I believe in our country, if everyone can have formal education, if everyone can have some sort of training, what Shirley was saying, she said that in some countries in Africa, there's about 50% of educators that are not qualified, or they are not fully qualified to be educating their learners. So the same thing with here in our country. I believe that if people don't take shortcuts, you see, before you start a business, you need to be educated, you need to be empowered so that you can run your operation smoothly. You don't have to start a business because you have money or someone is willing to donate to you or a government has given you something, but you are empowered. They give you money, but at the end of the day, you are unable to run your operation. So education is vital for anyone who wants to start a business, for anyone who wants to run or manage anything. Thank you.
No, definitely. I agree 100%. Thank you so much.
I think without education, I wouldn't have done what I've done today. I'll just give you an example. I've done 80 professional plays, and out of the 80 professional plays, you'll find 40 of them, safely to say, were classics. Your Shakespeare, your Jean Genet. You really need to have a good command of English to be actually acting in the language. Also, I've traveled the world with the gift that God gave me. But I think without education, I know of very good actors in my township, in my village. But because they are disenfranchised when it comes to the Queen's language, somehow they're going nowhere, and they're better actors than me. So I think education plays a pivotal role in one's life. There's a guy when I grew up, it was during years of apartheid. I'll never forget. He took a broken scooter. With that broken scooter somewhere in the woods around the township, and he created a small plane that flew for about 2 kilometers. If that guy was educated, or if that guy had the right education, and unfortunately at school, he wasn't doing well, I think as we speak now, we'll be having another, who's this giant who's like Virgin Airlines, Richard Bryanston. So education, I think it's a tool and it's a key to almost everything that you do in life.
No, definitely. Thank you so much for that. And that we can jump into your first question because it relates to that. So you've been a part of the entertainment industry for many years now. And in an industry like this, a person doesn't always need to be educated to get a job, especially on screen, because talent is more important. So do you think we have enough education systems in place that cater for this industry to truly prepare someone for what's to come?
Not really. I'll tell you why. I'm going to try and be mild, but politically, you see, when the Afrikaners took over in I think it was 1946, there's one thing that they did right. They made sure they built the halls and theaters so that they can, feed their kids with their culture and their tradition. With me, I feel if we really want to educate the kids now about the theater, about film, we should really start them at an early age. At a primary school, there should be, a subject where they could be doing that thing. Primary school, higher primary school, high school, because when you go to varsity, some of them are exposed to drama for the first time. For instance, my son is a theater practitioner now. He acts on the river. He only realized his talent when he was in matric. And that's too late. Of people who are talented, but at the end of the day, they die poor. Because you need to read the contract as well. They get $1 million, you think, it's a lot of money. No, there are other things that you can benefit from. So I really believe, and I believe in my lifetime, one day I'll be going to school to see young kids, as small as grade 1, doing drama as a subject. Because the other thing, even if you're not going to be all actors, you find you're a teacher, for instance. But if you have acting skills, you have ways to deal with your students. You'll know how to relate. You'll know how to tell this geography. For instance, I'll just give you an example about Paul. Apparently, he used to teach geography in drama. Like he would make a drama about geography. And he had 100% pass rate. Because somehow when people see, they cannot forget.
No, that's definitely powerful. Even someone like me only knew about the 10,000 other jobs behind the acting, skill. So I think it definitely does start too late. And your final question is, but you already spoke about this, which is beautiful. What do you think is the role of a teacher?
It's a very difficult one. I'll tell you why. You see, today our kids are no longer hungry for education like we were in the olden days. Today the kids, they have rights. So I think the role of a teacher is to extract talent from the kids. You can see this one. How come at some white schools, they'll find out, hey, this girl is good with poetry, but it's not the same with our black schools. How come you hear about people, he's been singing since he was 6. He was spotted when he was 6. It's because they have those activities. And the people who are watching them are learned. But now you go to a village in Hamotab, you find a teacher has never seen the theater before. And then when this kid is trying to express herself, I thought, she's mad, And fortunately, I was fortunate that, my uncle, Abel Makwela, when they had a matric farewell, I decided to do a story and imitated my grandfather. And after that, he said to me, "Hey, Munna, you should act." So you see, those words, they were planted. And I'm glad that he saw that talent in me. How come my teacher didn't see that, every time they wanted someone to recite poetry, I was the first one, whether Afrikaans, whether Sepedi, whether English. I love Shakespeare. Every time on the corridor, you'll hear me saying, some people are born great, some achieve greatness, some have greatness thrust. And people thought I was mad. Meantime, there was this talent that I had, and I wish I knew earlier. Who knows? I'll be in Hollywood now.
No, definitely. Thank you so much. That's powerful. So you've been training businesses for over 35 years to date. Do you feel that the current way we are educating children fully prepares them for the reality of life after school?
No, I don't, actually. I certainly believe that good education starts from a very, very young age. If people can afford to send their children to nursery school, the early childhood development is extremely important for the youngsters. But I find that by the time the youngsters are ready to leave school and start in the big world, they certainly don't have the kind of education they need in order to face the world in a different category. For example, a lot of them have no idea what marketing is about, what branding is about. You know, they see Nike, they see Gucci, they think that's great, but they don't understand the background and the value of that. In addition to that, it's very sad that they wouldn't know. Everybody aspires to want to have their own business, but they don't know where to start to even put a business plan together. And it's very sad that we don't spend more time educating youngsters on what can be done and should be done once they leave school and go to university. I'll give you a quick example. I was bringing in some marketing youngsters in their final year at university to my offices for them to do their 6 weeks or 8 weeks internship. Some of them had never seen a fax machine. Some of them didn't know how to put a marketing strategy when we went to go and see a client with regard to a particular proposal. And on the way there, I specifically said to her, this is the scenario, what would you recommend? And she couldn't make a recommendation. Final year of marketing. And that frightens me. It does frighten me. Definitely. So I believe we should prepare them in a far better space than what we're doing at the moment.
I agree. Thank you, Shirley. And your last question is, do you think education is responsible for preparing us for the business world?
Absolutely. Education and sharing experience hands-on. I believe in the mentorship program. I think it's fantastic if you can go ahead and spend 6 months or a year with an organization. Even if your 3-year program at university becomes 4 years, in order for you to have at least 2 or 3 months per year hands-on with organizations. And then it's up to us in the education department to ask these organizations to allow these youngsters to do this. Now, yes, there are programs of that nature, but I don't believe there are enough of them. And yes, agreed, 100%.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ngobeni, I'll ask you your questions. So you're the founder of your debt counseling company, and I'm sure you had to receive some form of education to be qualified in your field. Do you think standardized testing is the most effective way to judge learning, since everyone is different?
Yes. I think yes is correct. Everyone should go through testing. Everyone should be exposed, or someone must be, let's say, an educator, like what Mr. Sputler was saying, that we need to have educators that can spot talent, that can direct traffic on how to empower that certain individual. So in my field, I had to have a formal education so that I can start this business. And I had to go through approval and registration. I remember with the field that I'm doing, it was difficult at first to get everything on track. And I had to, I think it was 3 stages where they had to test my financial capacity, if I'll be able to execute the mandate. I had to go through registrations with the NCR where they screen everything about me. I had to go through interviews to see if I'll be able to help the consumers. So yes, I think answering your question, I think everyone should go through the standard testing to see if they are ready for this field, if they are well equipped, and most of all is that the education that will be tested there. Thank you.
No, I agree 100%. Just to challenge that a little bit, in your field, I think standardized testing makes sense because if you're going to deal with finances, you need to be able to bring the results of, as you said, the counseling and or the paperwork is there. But for example, my field, which is like acting, directing, just the entertainment industry, or let's say the arts, I know in a lot of public schools, it's more theoretical, whereas the private schools allow you the chance to do practicals, like make a movie, for example. So I'm thinking just different forms of testing like that. Do you think there's different ways to allow people? Okay, so your second question is this, maybe you can use it there. Do you think creating different forms of testing will give people more opportunities to succeed?
Yes, it will definitely will. Well, we have to understand that our country is well, I'm speaking about South Africa, but I'll also cover the whole of Africa in general. We are a diversified nation. For example, here in South Africa, you have different communities and a lot of rural areas where you have this other form of education that is given to the learners. That is way too different with education that is given in Gauteng. If you compare from Limpopo and Gauteng, you will find that a kid that is doing their primary school, then Gauteng, and the one that is doing the same grade, when you put them in the same room, let's say you want to do testing, and then you give them a script. Let's say they are both interested in arts, in performing, and then you give them a script and you want to see what comes from that. You'll pick that there is different qualities. So I believe if we can set different standards, or facilities where we can check our learners, we can check people, what will they be better if they are given, what will produce the right potential that we want to see. I think that will work wonders. Since we are living in a country where there's a lot of inequality, the standards are not the same. The standard of living are not the same. Mr. Siputla mentioned something that he knows a lot of good actors in the village, but they never got an opportunity. So imagine if there is an organization that seeks to go and reach all these people, whether you are in a village, whether you are in a township, to bring the same standard as someone who lives in Gauteng or in Cape Town, where there is theaters, where there is art facility, where there is mentors that they can go and see and they can nurture their talent. So if we have those kind of things, if we can integrate it into the primary level education. Imagine if I go to a primary school and there's an art class. That will discover a lot of kids. That will discover a lot of talent. And I believe that in our country, well, I went to a public primary school. There was never an art class. There was never a time where there will be an orientation where they want to see who has what is this one talented in, what is this one talented in. So I hear the Minister of Education, I hear the President complaining about that the education in South Africa is very low. I mean, the rate when we are compared to other countries, all Africa in general. But where is the root cause? Let's look at our primary level. Because if you can discover someone at the age of 6 that this person is an actor, if you can discover someone at an early age that this is a born singer, the talent is pure, why don't we have platforms in those places? There is a lot of, how can I put it? There's a lot of diamond mines or gold mines in villages, in those underprivileged schools, that we can have stars if we can put our resources in the right place.
No, I definitely agree. And I'm just going to open the ground for anyone to speak. But like when you look at, because I'm from Mpumalanga, and there's some kids I knew who went to school, but they struggle with something like maths. And they say their teacher doesn't give them the opportunity, like even if they say, I don't understand, there's no one there for them to go back and say, please help me. So they left very stranded and alone in situations like that, and it's very hard for them to be empowered. So yeah, we can just open the discussion. Anyone can add on this topic before we carry on.
I just wanted to add on the previous speaker. I wish and pray we should never look for government to give us solutions. I wish and pray, I want to repeat this again. Let's not wait for government to give us solutions. We know that the government wheel takes 100 years to turn. By the time it's turning, we'll all be ancestors. If there are business people who are listening, if there are people who can, and it's only starts with one person. If I see somebody that I see that this person has got talent and I help that person, I'm telling you, we will be going somewhere. But if we wait for government to give us solutions, amen, we are doomed for life.
Definitely. No, you're very right. Just to add on
Without a
that.
doubt. I'd like to just add to what's being said. I think what would be fantastic if our Department of Education changed the syllabus completely. Not everybody is interested in history. Not everybody is good at maths or languages and science. Why don't we do what some countries have done? And they've taken the youngsters to school. In the first 2 years, they do only practical work. They then identify their talents, where you get somebody who builds the most amazing aeroplane out of Lego, and the next kid hasn't got a clue where to start, but that person is fantastic with his hands doing something else. And then test them and put them into those categories that they could become the engineer, the this, the that. By the time they have matriculated, they have a very clear idea of where they're going to go. And the second thing that goes with that particular program is that there would be scholarships that come through from corporates to say, by the time this youngster is 12 years old, it would be absolutely fantastic to support him. By the time he goes to university, he feels confidence, he's doing what he wants to do, and he will be able to take this forward. And then he can pay it forward by taking a certain percentage of his income towards this entire program to make sure that other kids can benefit from it as well. And to me, that is where the talent lies. A lot of people have said, I hated history in school. And yet when they left school and they were sitting in front of TV, they loved to watch the documentaries on TV on history. And so let each person choose the kind of profession that they think they can do at a very young, early stage. Run with it, be nurtured with that, and then they may even change. Sure, they may change their thinking. But to me, as far as I'm concerned, it's hands-on from a very young, early age, provided that they can read and write, because literacy is a big problem. And second of all is looking at languages that are more common and acceptable worldwide, like you were saying earlier, English, for example. But if you can communicate well and you can read and write, I tell you what, those things are paramount. That example you gave of the youngster in the bush that made the aeroplane.
Yep.
Perfect,
Yep.
perfect example. And that's what I'm saying, is that he would never be recognized. Where's his talent gone today? And I've seen some fantastic Facebook photographs of youngsters building structures out of scrap, which some architects can't even do with real material. And yet, where are those youngsters going today? So thank you, Chantal.
Well, thank you all. That was such an important message that was shared by all of you. Thank you. So speaking of history, since we are on the topic of empowering Africa, I think personally, I don't even remember much about what I learned in high school. And so what do you think we should do to introduce Black and colored history in school? Because I think now we're only learning one side of the story. And I think if we can just introduce the other side, Black and colored history, then, you know, Black children won't feel as less than as they do, because we do come from apartheid and we do come from being hated for our skin color, and now it's turned into self-hate. So yeah, that's the question. What do you think we should do about introducing this history into our schools? I'll start with Mr. Ngobeni.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chantal. So your question is about how can we bring everyone in together? Yeah, I think learning about each other's history and getting to appreciate where we're all coming from. Well, at the end of the day, we are one person, but different reasons have made us find ourselves where we are. So I think starting with history classes, or history in general, where we have to understand where we, like the rich heritage that we respectively share. Let's say for us Black people, we are a united, strong, smart people. I believe we are all coming from the Central Africa. So if we can start, you mentioned something about because we were discriminated and that thing has come to us feeling the self-hate. If we can start learning about our rich history, the values that we all share as Africans, and then that way we are united to know that, okay, we are coming from the same place, we share this and this, we are actually a one person, one nation. And then that platform will enable us to interact with other nations. Let's say we have Europeans that we are sharing a class with. They teach us their rich history, we teach them our rich history, and then we find a way of integrating those two things. And then I believe that we can produce, let's say for instance, we have an artist here. Let's say we combine those two rich heritage, and then we come up with a play. How wonderful would that be? You can see it on Netflix one of these days. So, but the point I'm stressing is that for us to live in harmony with one another, to look at the next person as you are seeing yourself, is about learning about the person. Let's say, for example, I am going out with a girl. I cannot be all that until I get to know the person. So after some time of us going out, is then I know this person, I know what kind of person she is and stuff like that. So I believe for a rich, I will not say, for a rich integration, if we have to be integrated, these two entities, if they come together, if I know a lot about you, if I know a lot of positive, because what we are given is that this other party is bad for us, there is 1, 2, 3. also the same thing. There is negative education that the generation that their side, they are given that these parties are 1, 2, 3 lazy, 1, 2, 3. But if we can change all of that, I believe that we can come up with positive, exciting things that will benefit us and the generations to come.
I like you taking it from negative to positive. I think that's the key. Thank you so much. And Mr. Sibukhodi, you can share your views.
You know, I was fortunate to travel the world, and every time I come back, I cannot wait to have that pap and vors or that pap and steak. And when I'm overseas, most of the time, you know, because especially Americans, they don't know Africa, you know, they still think, hey man, you got a lion as a pet. I always say to people, and this is what I always preach when I'm home. I say, I have a feeling that when God created the world, he started in Cape Town. That is why he had time to play with that mountain, to make it a table, you know. And then on a good day, you'll find some clouds, which will be like a cloth on that table. South Africa has got the most wonderful scenery. The way we live as South Africans, there is no one, there is no place, even if they give me $1 billion, I'll never stay in New York. Even if they give me $1 billion, I will never stay in England. I will stay Hamutapo or I'll stay in Attisville in Africa. You tell me one fruit or one veg that doesn't grow in Limpopo, or one mineral that we don't have in Limpopo, I'll pay you. So I think what we need to do, we need to find a way, oh yes, we need to go back and see what happened, and so that our kids should never repeat the same mistakes. And as well, we shouldn't dwell on those mistakes that happened in the past. What happened in the past, let it stay in the past. But for the future, let's make it this poetic course, you know, black, white, colored, because if we all have a cut, our blood is red.
Amen. Thank you. And Shirley, you can share your view as well.
I agree with what has been expressed. And I think what we need to add to the incredible country that we have is the people. You know, I did a study and a research for a very big engineering company that had engineers coming out here for Gautrain from France, Italy, Belgium, all over the place. What they wanted to know was, how does the culture differ between people within this country? And when I went through the entire program, wrote the entire training for them, they were fascinated to find out that some tribes will have their cattle inside the kraal, inside surrounded by huts. Others will have the kraal outside. The different beads that people would use in order to propose to somebody. And the most fascinating thing they asked me about was, when we have a staff member saying to us, I need to go to my mother's funeral, they give them time off to do that. And maybe 6 months later, they come back and say, I need to go to my mother's funeral. They say, but you buried your mother 6 months ago. They need to then explain that we had the gogo and we had the mother. And I think that that is so precious in this country. And we undoubtedly have the most incredible country. I agree with you. We have fantastic cultures. We must respect that of each. And we need to learn that of each to be able to understand each other better. To me, that is so powerful, because we've got the most incredible, talented people. And South Africa has introduced many firsts in this world. We have. We've been very fortunate because we've got the right people. Most of us have the right attitude. We need to just change a few things in our education program and our political and government scenarios going forward. And I promise you, we'll have people wanting to come back and live here and invest, because it's such an incredible country. Like you, I've traveled extensively. There is no place like home. And I also eat pop and sauce. So thank you, Chantal.
Thank you so much for that. Sometimes you think that but I honestly have no idea. We have 11 languages, which means we have 11 cultures, and there's probably more in between that we don't know about. So it's just learning about each other, I think, makes you more open to and just love one another. Yeah, especially like when you travel, you become more aware of the people around you. So thank you for that. And our last question is, how can we use education to transform Africa? Mr. Ngobeni, you can start.
Thank you, Chantal. How can we use education to transform our continent? Yeah, education. Well, let's talk about the system that we have currently. We are trying to dismantle the old system that was put in by apartheid or by the colonial, those olden days where the colonies were still in other countries in Africa. But the system itself, we need to address that. I'll give an example. I remember in 2009, I went to join Mr. Siputla mentioned something about Richard Branson. Richard Branson extended his gratitude to our country and other countries. He started a school called Branson School of Entrepreneurship. What happens there, it's independent. It had nothing to do with government. What Branson did, they will identify people who want to be in business, and then they give them education. They train them in the specific field they want to venture into. And then after that, they will have something called a seed fund. A seed fund will act as an investment from the institution, where after you're done with your studies, they fund you. And then they hire a mentor who will be with you for 12 months to make sure that when you start your business, we have a lot of people who were funded, and then they were empowered with millions. And then you find that after 12 or 18 months, the business is not functioning. There is a lot of infrastructure where a lot of money was spent. So the seed fund will hire a mentor who will be with the entrepreneur for the first 12 months to make sure that the books are balanced, to make sure that customers, marketing, all those things that you need to run a successful business. So I believe if we can come up with the same initiative to say, okay, we have people who want to be in business. We have people who want to be actors. We have people who want to be engineers. We have people, all these things. So why don't we have a platform where we say, we can provide training for you. And then after training, because how many people have degrees? How many people have all this formal education, but they are unemployed today? And then most of them, they get frustrated and they want to start business. You find someone starting a business, and then after 12, 18 months, the business is a fail. So we need to have that kind of education and have someone to monitor the start of the initiative or the start of the venture. So I believe if we can have a platform throughout Africa, Africa is way too rich. I believe if we can have a platform that mobilizes people to come and join, and then we have enough money to reach other countries. Let's say you go to countries like Malawi, you go to countries like Central Africa, they are still stuck with the old system. They are not having a system that is integrated with creativity. If I am in a class where it's full of creative stuff, I am able to start doing what I like. or what I feel like I'm better at this. And the person who's the educator, who's monitoring everyone, is able to write a report, give it to the principal that I see this and that. They are more interested in doing this and what in arts. I see the one is more interested in fixing things. I see the one is more interested in organizing, administrating things and doing things that you can see that this person wants to take this direction. So I believe if we can start with that, it will transform. In the next 30 years or 20 years, we will have a transformed continent. We will have a continent that is capable to execute anything, because we can say we have the richest mineral in the continent, but let's say I have mining rights today, and there's a mine in my village. I have claim rights, or I've applied for rights. They give me those rights. Without the necessary mining education, what do you think will happen? I can get money to start the mine. I can have all these things. People will come and rob me. There will be other people who will say, yeah, do this and 1, 2, 3. All I am seeing is just money coming in. 1, 2, 3, we run the mine to the ground. But if I have mining rights and I know we can start operation in that mine, but I have a degree or I have went through training, there are companies or there are institutions that deals with training people in mining. We will be able, imagine if we have a generation that is capable of taking over the economy of South Africa. We are talking about we need to transform this thing. But we cannot transform our economy if there is no proper education. We can take over the economy tomorrow, but what will happen if we are not directed in the right direction? If we can't manage our own pockets. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, I definitely agree. We do need some form of training.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, what we need to do is to have a look at programs that will bring forward the knowledge for people to want to pursue their career. There are not enough welders. There aren't enough boilermakers. And a lot of people don't look at those professions as being important. And yet today, because a lot of people are not doing that, they're going to be earning more than what an engineer would earn. And to me, the most important thing would be that teacher, the university lecturer, or the professor. When I was in Thailand, they told me in Thailand that the most important profession in Thailand that is recognized by them is teaching. Because without the teacher, you wouldn't have the engineers, you wouldn't have the doctors, you wouldn't have the surgeons. So as far as I'm concerned, we need to educate our teachers. Do you know that in some countries in Africa, over 50% of the teachers teaching our scholars at school are not fully qualified? And that is a frightening stat.
It definitely is. Yeah, I think the passion for teaching is lost in between, because sometimes we just look for a job and yeah, we get half-hearted teachers. But thank you so much, Shirley. Do you have any final words?
I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the other guests have to say about education going forward. And if we can work together to make sure that our youngsters have a good chance in life, I think that's most important. Okay. Thank you very much, Chantal, for the opportunity.
Thank you so
much. I wish and pray that some child in Madombisha, or some child in Guguletu, or some child in Harrismith who has a wish, or some child in Uganda or in Burundi who wants to be a pilot, must see that dream coming true. And the issue of money shouldn't be a problem because he comes from a poor family. Because now we are busy blaming our kids that they smoke nyaope, but we never ask why they're smoking nyaope. Somebody just said now that we are teaching them history, or agriculture. Meantime, this person wants to be a CA. I wish we can have that freedom, or our education could shape our kids' lives so that they could be what they want to be. I wish one day that a child in Harare who wants to be a president or who wants to be an engineer, they should not be deterred from their dream because their parents are poor.
Thank you so much. And I agree with that as well. I wish for everyone who has a specific dream and the right systems in place to empower them, that they are able to fulfill that dream. So we are done with the interview. Any last words? I can start with you, Mr. Sebukhodi.
Just one prayer, dear Lord, just this long wish, my Lord, learning and light for the poor black child, his education, my Lord. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ngobeni, any last words?
Thank you, Chantal. I would love to say thank you to everyone who was part of this interview. I hope if tomorrow someone is to look at this interview and listen to the discussion that we are having, will be able to get inspired and do something about it. I remember this other quote saying that tons of theory is nothing compares to an ounce of action. So it's all about action. It's all about what can we do? The four of us, what can we initiate to make this not just talk, but an ounce of action that will translate into something big. And I believe if like minds come together, we can achieve a lot. We can move mountains. We can see this thing happening. We can make sure that the quote by the former president Nelson Mandela saying that education is the most powerful weapon to eradicate poverty. So we are still stuck with people who are not being transformed because of poverty. You have schools that are not performing well. Sometimes we can blame the educators, but we have also to look at the resources. Are they empowered? Do they have the right resources to do what needs to be done? So it's a very broad issue that we have to look at. But I believe if we can mobilize people, or we can again have this interview and say, what action should we do? What can we do as individuals and with our understanding and what we wish to see? So I think my last word will be action. Let's take action.
Let's do it. You know, one day hopefully we can come together and I can say, I have a mission for us all. Let's go into schools and transform them. Yes, Shirley, you can share your last words with us.
Thank you, Chantal. You know, brand marketing is so important worldwide. Wouldn't it be fantastic if South Africans were recognized as the brand marketing people that companies all over the world will admire and say, look what they produce. Isn't that fantastic? They've got an incredible model that will work anywhere in the world, and it is paid off because the country has grown from strength to strength, only because they changed their education system, only because they recognize that there needs to be something done differently in order to get people to expose their talents, and therefore making South Africa an incredible country. We need to brand ourselves as a country. We need to brand ourselves as individuals that are powerful to be able to help those less fortunate than ourselves, and even those that are very fortunate, but being able to work together, as you said earlier, get together with a massive committee, have a look at the options, have a look at what is available, how can we do things differently, and move on from there. You know, the skills development and levy that is charged to companies, something different can be done with that. Something different can be introduced in order to give an education to other people that can less afford it. And I think that collectively it would be amazing if we branded this country, branded our people as they should be, to be some of the best producers. Chantal, it was wonderful to hear the views of all the others and your own. So thank you once again for inviting me. Most appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. This is the end of the interview. It was really amazing having you join us. That is the end of the interview, and what an enriching conversation that was with these three amazing individuals. I feel like I knew there was something wrong with the education system, but I didn't understand how deep it was. And after speaking with these amazing individuals and them sharing their experiences and their points of view, you can tell how deep it actually is. But I'm glad that we had the opportunity to speak about it so that we can truly make a difference for future generations. The whole point of this is not only to speak about it in theory, but to take action and truly empower ourselves as Africans, because if we don't do it for ourselves, no one else is going to. Please do like this video if you enjoyed and subscribe to our channel, and we'll definitely be back with more. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. This is Empowering Africa with Eternal Productions, and that's it from me, your host, Chantal. I hope you enjoyed and be blessed.